Hey folks, Real Honesty with Jarmithlin. I'm Jarmithlin. This is Times in Wrestling That Pissed Me Off, Redux, Part 4, The Dream Master. Are you the Dream Keeper? Wait, no, that's wrong. It's Jason Lives. No, that's not it either. It's actually just Times in Wrestling That Pissed Me Off, Redux, Part 4. Just some, little goofy movie references there. And actually it was the final chapter that was Jason, Friday the 13th, Part 4. I don't want any movie fans to come at me in the comments. Those of you that have watched, you know how this is working. It's a redux of the original series that I did about 2 years ago, just with better video quality than I had with the original, even though people love the original. These are going to be even better rants, maybe a little more focused and everything. So here we go. I'm going to try to go through more than just 2 subjects like I did on the previous video, but I have plenty of time to do these. And also I do want to say that if people notice that maybe the lighting and everything doesn't change for some of these videos. I'm actually recording these in a block, like in about 2 hours on some days off, because I'm going to be working a lot, especially coming up in late February, early March. So I'm not going to be able to record nearly as many videos. I'll record some New Japan stuff, of course, and of course the usual Raw SmackDown reviews and Elimination Chamber preview and review, even though I'm not too excited about that. But a lot of these will be recorded and they'll just be uploaded periodically. There will be 5 or 6 parts up by early March, and then I'm going to take a bit of a break on these until just after WrestleMania. Give a little bit of a break, and that way people can catch up on this stuff. So, and because I got a ton of months to shoot this stuff. It's an endless supply of stuff, and there's even some new stuff in comparison to the original series. So without further ado, this introduction's taken a long time. Here we go. JBL is WWE Champion. I originally used to defend this because at least it was a heel champion that, cheated his way to win and all that stuff, and that's old school mentality. The problem is JBL just wasn't good in the ring. And he really, really wasn't. I mean, he was taken from being just a tag team mid-carder and, just suddenly shot all the way up to being a main eventer. I mean, it was like, people say it was a lot like Jinder. I said, here's the difference. At least with Bradshaw, he had been in the company for a number of years and stuff like that. At least it worked a little better, because the matches that him and Eddie had were a lot more interesting than the matches Orton and Jinder had. No worry, I will get to Jinder as WWE Champion sometime down the road. It probably won't be till sometime in like April or May. But actually May, I think, would be appropriate, considering it would be about a year since he won the title. But JBL's WWE Champion, I mean, you gotta think about it. He beat Eddie for it. He feuded with The Undertaker. That feud really didn't go anywhere. Booker T, that feud also didn't really go anywhere. And then they mashed all them up. Taker, Eddie, and Booker in a Fatal 4-Way at Armageddon 04, which was the only good match on that entire card. And actually the best match that he had was probably the match that he had with Big Show and Kurt Angle in that triple threat at Royal Rumble 05. Because the No Way Out 05 match wasn't all that good. He was good at getting heat on people. I mean, in the whole thing of chasing people who were actors away from the U.S.-Mexican border, I guess could be seen as humorous. I mean, it kind of fits with how JBL is, as a person. Not exactly the nicest person in the world. But just a lot of it just didn't make sense. And to me, it was just Vince. It was Vince realizing, like, Eddie apparently didn't feel he was up to snuff as champion. So that's why the title was taken off of him. Maybe it's possible he requested the title be taken off of him. I don't know. That's a report up for another day. JBL's WWE Champion ended up being pretty damn rotten. The guy held it for like 10 months, almost 10 months. I mean, he won it in like June, like late June, like mid to late June, and held it till like that, the following WrestleMania. So it was about 9 months. It was 9 months and a week or two. It ultimately didn't work. It just didn't. It did tarnish the WWE title. I'm not saying that Cena was necessarily the perfect choice, but at least he was a younger talent, and they were giving him a chance, and he was somebody that like, okay, well, let's go with him and see what happens. I mean, ultimately, it did end up kind of backfiring because of the way they pushed him instead of maybe letting him be a heel for a while. But is what it is. JBL's champion, though, turned out to be pretty rotten. Yeah, because it's like, I could have just ranted about JBL, the bully, and the fact that, you know, he bullied numerous people out of the company. Thank God Morrow's back in the company, even though others have said that it wasn't, you know, because of JBL that it happened. I feel it was, and I feel that was a smokescreen, just my opinion. I could have ranted about that, but I ranted about that in enough rapid-fire rants that I did, earlier last year. So you guys can go back and check those out if you want. I usually have the subject matter in the descriptions. Other than that, I mean, it's like I've covered JBL to death as far as like being a bully. So really, I just want to cover his time as champion. He just wasn't that good. And now we're going to get to something that really irritated me. Even though I've never been the biggest fan of Goldberg, and I will do an unpopular opinion on him at some point, how they ended his streak was absolute garbage. It was where WCW had created, you know, whether by choice or whether the fans just decided, they had created a monster star. Goldberg was getting some backlash even from the fans, but still, the vast majority of people enjoyed seeing Goldberg. So Starrcade 98, Goldberg's got this huge title run that's going. It's nearing 6 months. Because he won it at the beginning of July, and Starrcade 98 was at the beginning, or was at the end of December. So it's nearing 6 months, and you're thinking, okay, he'll beat Nash. Now, I want to say that if Nash had beaten him straight up in a match, no shenanigans, this match probably wouldn't have hurt all that bad. It probably wouldn't have hurt all that bad at all, honestly. Nash could have put over somebody other than Hogan, which, oh yeah, I'm going to get to here in just a second because both these tie in. But Goldberg, Bam Bam interferes. And they got all this stuff that's like, oh, it's no disqualification suddenly. So Bam Bam interferes and he gets clothesline. And then Goldberg looks like he's set up for the spear and everything. And the match itself wasn't horrible. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. And then Goldberg is this and sees a security guard, and the security guard tases him, and turns out to be Scott Hall, who's dressed like a security guard. Nash, jackknife, 1, 2, 3, and of course the CM Punk line that they use from the Monday Night Wars stuff. And it's like, should we zap him with a taser? Good idea? Yeah, not a good idea. It's horrible. It's garbage. And it was garbage. Because Goldberg was really, really hot, even though fans were cheering for Nash and some were saying Goldberg sucks, Goldberg still had a lot of fans. Now, fans did pop at that point when Nash beat Goldberg. The problem is, they didn't follow up on it well. If you had had Nash in a return bout like a month later, maybe even a couple months later, built to something where Goldberg could have beaten a couple guys and then gotten to Nash again, or face Hogan or whatever, okay. But the way they went about it was terrible. Like, Goldberg gets shocked, and then he gets beat up on Nitro, handcuffed, spray painted. And then, like, I think later in the night, in fact, I think it was the Fingerpoke of Doom, actually, that very night. So yeah, Goldberg's streak ending the way it did him no favors, drove a stake into WCW's heart. And then the Fingerpoke of Doom happened. And let me just say this much. Nash doing it, whatever. They put more pyro and more time into that than they should have. And this should have been where WCW smashed WWE in the ratings. Because WWE was taped. And even though people wanted to see Foley win the title, you know, Shivani was told to spoil it. I'm not going to knock Shivani. Whether it was Bischoff, whether it was somebody else. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate here. Since I don't actually hate Shivani, he has his fans. I certainly don't think he's a terrible announcer. I may not think he's the greatest, but that's just my opinion. And I like Bischoff. I think Bischoff's really good, and I will do an unpopular opinion on Eric Bischoff and on Goldberg at some point. But the Fingerpoke of Doom, they did this pyro for, you know, Nash, and this big return for Hogan. Hogan came out of retirement after the Halloween Havoc 98 match that he had with Warrior. By the way, if you want to hear my opinions on that, check out part 3, and you know, which will be up at some point. I mean, it's like I'm going to obviously release these fairly close together, maybe 2 in 1 week or 2 in about 10 days. But the Fingerpoke of Doom was what killed WCW ultimately. It's what put the stake through the rest of you know, it's like the stake into the heart, and okay, maybe they can recover, or stake in the chest, and it's like they just took like this freaking, they took a sledgehammer and just drove it through there. Because Nash is doing this, doing a too sweet, shoves Hogan back, does that. And Hogan, dressed in like a bandana and street clothes, I mean, that's what he was dressed like. Poke. Nash falls down. 1, 2, 3. People compared this and said, oh, no one gave the shit to Triple H and Shawn Michaels for what they did with the European title December of 97. It's a Christmas Raw special that they did. I did, and that is something that pissed me off. And in fact, I'm just going to briefly touch on that. To me, it's shit on any build that Bulldog did for the European title. Like, that's what was flat out ridiculous about it. I fucking hated it. I fucking hated it. Because to me, it was comedic and stupid and everything. But it was a secondary title. So as much as I like what Bulldog did with the European title, how Shawn just didn't do anything with it. He just got it as a prop. I don't think he defended it much at all. Like, he didn't defend it Bad Blood. He didn't defend it, obviously, at Survivor Series. It's just, I don't think he defended it in your house. It just, he was European champion and he never defended it. So, like any build the Bulldog did by having some great matches, especially when he first won it, by beating Owen Hart in the tournament finals in Germany, one of my favorite Raw matches of all time. And the match I probably should have ranked higher in my top 25 Raw matches. But anyway, because I don't think it was number 1. Or maybe it was. I don't remember what I ranked. But that was really embarrassing. But it was also a secondary title. A title that had already lost any prestige, really, they had had. It never recovered after that. Even with Triple H having it. Even Owen Hart being a European champion at one point even. I mean, D'Lo Brown was a good champion. Like, it didn't recover. It didn't recover is the bottom line. Matt Hardy even had a decent run with it in 2000, I believe. Decent run, I think, like a couple months. But the whole point is that was a secondary title. This is the World Heavyweight Championship, going back to the Fingerpoke of Doom. That was them just shitting on the business, shitting on the whole thing. It's like, it was Hogan's ego. Oh, Hogan's like, yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah, let's do it, brother. Just terrible Hogan impression, by the way. I'm not going to apologize, but terrible Hogan impression. But just, they do that, and then NWO's out there celebrating. I mean, you got, like, I think Steiner, Scott Hall. I want to say Buff Bagwell was there. I don't know. I try not to remember Buff Bagwell much of anything because he wasn't any good. But, and I don't care if any Buff Bagwell fans watch it. If you like Buff Bagwell, that's great. Then Goldberg gets freed from jail because Miss Elizabeth pressed assault charges on him. No one knew what was going on with these angles. Creative didn't know. Goldberg runs to the ring. He's kind of taking people out and this kind of stuff. And he gets face off with Hogan. And it looks like Lex Luger's, jumping in. He's going to save him. And then Lex Luger attacks Hogan. And Lex Luger joins the NWO Black and Red and White Wolf Pack for NWO Life. I don't know what the hell it was anymore. It was reuniting the groups because the NWO was pretty much dead. They had, like, kind of killed off the group for a couple months. It just was so bad. And then, of course, they tried to revamp it about 11 months later, and it didn't go very well either. But the Fingerpoke of Doom was just, the fans were pissed off. I mean, ratings for WCW were still good till about, I'd say, August of 99, because there were still loyal fans tuning in. And they could, if they hadn't done that, if they had just done the Starrcade thing, but then built it back up better and had Goldberg go for revenge against various NWO members and actually done something okay, maybe that could have worked. But the way they ended Goldberg's streak was absolute shit. Then the way they did the Fingerpoke of Doom, it was Hogan's ego. It was Nash shockingly did not tear a quad doing the finger poke bump. And yes, that's a cheap joke. It was just bad. It was just absolutely fucking terrible. Like, what the fuck? I mean, it was just, why would you do this with your main title? And then the WCW title by that point meant nothing. It meant nothing. I mean, and even with DDP winning it a couple times, it didn't mean anything. Because people were tossing it around, like the people were winning and then tossing it around. It was bad. It was just really fucking bad. So now we move on to a brief rant on Enzo. Okay, Enzo was a shit worker. And genuinely seemed like a shit person from what I could gather, and that a lot of his people backstage did not like him, and that he wasn't in the business because he loved it. He was in the business just to become famous, which, look, gaining a celebrity in wrestling, yes, times have changed in wrestling, obviously. There are some people that get into it because they like it and then they learn to love it, but also they like the fame. I don't know who wouldn't like the fame, but the fact that he never got any better in the ring, he was a soundbite promo. It got to where he was creative at first, or at least seen as creative, and then it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse. And it just made no sense. None of his shit made sense. It's like he never won any gold in WWE. Him and Cass never won any gold. You would watch Enzo. It's like, and then then of course, actually, I take that back. He did win some gold. He won the Cruiserweight title. I try to forget that because that was a bigger shit on the Cruiserweight title than Hornswoggle. Because at least Hornswoggle could work. Enzo couldn't. And then, of course, you got the whole allegations thing, which, whether they turn out to be true or not, and I did a rant back, a couple days after the whole thing happened. You could check that out if you want for a more scathing rant. But he knew that he was under investigation, whether the allegations were true or not, and didn't inform WWE, and didn't inform him for like 3 months. And that was right around the time that he got the Cruiserweight title back. Like, he lost it to Kalisto and then won it at TLC, like 13 days later. And that was it. Then suddenly he, is champion. He's champion. And then all of a sudden, Raw 25, they were going to have, I believe, I think they were going to have Cedric versus Enzo, or maybe it was going to happen on the Royal Rumble pre-shows, one of the two. And that didn't end up happening. Because Enzo ended up getting fired because, he didn't tell his employer that he was under investigation. Whether he was guilty or not, tell your employer, I'm under investigation for this. I didn't do it, but I'm under investigation for this. Oh, he maybe just thought he would be a big star, and that would end up, nullifying it. No, it didn't end up nullifying it. They stripped him of the title. They kicked him out the door. I hope he, bit the curb on the way down, and I hope Kevin Dunn joins him someday. Kevin Dunn, the stupid, worthless Bucky Beavertooth motherfucker that he is, that piece of shit in wrestling. Good God, I can't stand Kevin Dunn. And yeah, a little brief Kevin Dunn rant. I'll probably do brief Kevin Dunn rants in these videos, but just Enzo. I'm glad he's out of wrestling because first off, it was getting exhausting complaining about a guy that did not deserve to be in wrestling. And it's fine if any of you guys watching are fans of Enzo. I'm not going to knock you guys at all. I'm going to make that clear. I don't get why he has fans. I was a fan for a while, but then he really started to grate on my nerves, and then he really did. And then it got even worse when he became Cruiserweight Champion. I mean, him being part of 205 Live was a terrible idea. Now they're revamping it and they're doing great things with it. And Enzo's no longer part of it, and I hope that Enzo's rap career flames out, and I hope he realizes just how much he screwed up. And being the piece of shit person he is, whether the allegations are true or not, he must have done something bad because they felt the need to fire him. So anyway, that's what I gotta say. I'm gonna end this part 4 right here. Part 5 and 6 will come up at some point, like I said, in March. Anyway, do you agree? Do you disagree with what I said? You think I went too far with this rant? I mean, come on, guys. It's times in wrestling to piss me off. How can you not expect these rants to get a little vicious? Like, share, comment, subscribe. Twitter link in the description. It's been Real Honesty with Jarmithlin. I'm Jarmithlin, and I will see you soon.